Alright, welcome back. Where did we end off? That's right. Everybody's dying. Father. Mother. Oh yeah, that's right, they died. Ah, what is this? Another magic circle? Maria has no opinion. Aunt Eva and Uncle Hideyoshi are safe, right? Totally. Hey, Kanon-kun. What's this all about? Batla-sama. Kanon didn't have to say anything. George's scream after he ran into the room told them everything they needed to know. George is not having a good day. Who did this? I'll kill you. I'll kill you. George-kun. Hang in there, pat pat. You'll be right. Natsuhi touched George's shoulder with her hand, but he violently shook her off. George fell over beside Eva and buried his face in the bed in front of his mother's face, wailing. Then he pounded on the bed with his fist over and over again. Ooh. George, Nisan, hang in there. Huh? Batla? Batla-sama. Batla had his back against the wall of the hallway and was covering his eyes with his right hand and weeping without restraint. Horrible. That's horrible. Yeah, I'm assuming the Japanese for that was hidoi, which is a little difficult to translate. He proposed to the girl he loved and lost her the next day. And on the same day, even his mom and dad were killed. Isn't that too harsh? Of course, it's sad whenever anyone dies, no matter who it is. But to Batla, those left alone by the deaths of others were far more worthy of pity. Really? Pretty sure everyone is worthy of pity. Everyone here now had lost someone close to them. George wasn't the only one to be pitied. However, George's pain was far greater than everyone else's. Now, let's not compare our pain. Batla, I know, everyone dies sooner or later. If you're human, you'll eventually have to fight the sorrow of losing someone close to you. But still, shouldn't that day be far in the future for Aniki? And shouldn't those deaths visit him one at a time? Technically they did. Horrible. It's too horrible. That bastard. Doesn't he have even a speck of human sympathy in him? Yeah, I'm not screaming. Ooh, Batla, don't cry. Maria tried to comfort Batla in a mechanical sounding voice. There. Cheer up, pip pip. Batla violently wiped his tears. Ooh, yeah, damn it. I won't cry anymore. Tears of regret, tears of sadness, I won't shed them again. It's all useless. They're so dramatic. The witches got me backed into a corner. I'm always on the defensive. And that's useless. It's all useless. I'll spin the chessboard around, Detta. That bastard probably thinks we'll be running scared like sheep until tomorrow before we try anything. But guess what? I'll spin it around. Yes, we know. That bastard can't escape this island until tomorrow either. We won't be hiding away, pissing ourselves. That bastard will. Oh, such language. I'll expose you. You'll see. By tomorrow. No, screw tomorrow. Tonight. That is an entire screen full of text. Oh my. Before tonight's over, I'll be gripping you by the collar. Well then. Dramatic much, Batla? Meanwhile, Natsuhi. At any rate, we'll lock this room and leave everything as it is until the police come. No objections, I take it? I'm not sure I'd want to object with her pointing a massive gun in my face. Natsuhi announced it as though she didn't care whether they agreed or not. You tell them. If anyone had a right to object, it would have been George, but he looked as though he'd shed enough tears. George nodded slightly, still facing away from the others. And when he stood up, everyone else agreed too. Natsuhi still hadn't opened that western envelope of the family head that she'd picked up. Yeah, what's in it? But now that they'd decided to leave this room, she decided to unseal it in the parlor where everyone could watch. Yeah, let's go. As soon as they walked out into the hallway to head back to the parlor, some of them immediately felt something out of place, or maybe sensed something strange. Ew. Stinks. Indeed, I'm sure it does. Ah, did you notice it too, Maria? Seriously, what's that smell? It's awful. Probably rotting corpses. When everyone sniffed the air, they did notice a horrible burnt smell drifting through the hallway, one that none of them had smelled until then. I will go quickly to check the kitchen. I'm sure I turned the flame off. After noticing a burnt smell, it was natural that Kumasawa, who had just been using the burner in the kitchen, suspected that her own slip-up had caused it. Kumasawa hastily dashed away. Kanon, go with Kumasawa. Do not let her be alone. Yes. After nodding at Genji's order, Kanon followed after her. He wasn't running, but as he followed her, he tried to search for the cause of the smell in other directions as well. Ew. Stinks. Ew. Maria is rapidly becoming my favorite character. It truly is a stench that makes the nose wrinkle. However, that doesn't mean we can just open a window for ventilation. Natsuhi was reluctant to open the windows in a situation where self-defense was so important. Somehow I don't think the witch cares about windows. She has no body. Let us run the fan. I do not believe that there will be any need to open the windows. George Aniki, is it okay if I talk to you? No. If it's about finding the culprit, then I have no problems. It seemed that George had managed to climb out of the abyss of sorrow. Sounds like a Metal Gear villain. All that filled his chest now was the quiet flame of hatred towards the culprit who had stolen the lives of the one he loved and his beloved parents. The chain for this room was set. From what I could tell by looking at it, I'm positive that it couldn't be opened from the outside. In other words, this was a perfect closed room. That does seem to be the case. In the case of the Rose Garden storehouse, they might have sneaked the shutter's key out of the servant room. Or maybe they had a duplicate key. I can imagine many ways they could have done it. But this chain is different. Among generally used locking techniques, a chain is the simplest one to create a closed room with. Only a chain will block everyone from coming from the outside as long as it isn't physically broken. So, does this mean the culprit couldn't have gone in or out through the door? That's interesting. Just a few hours ago, I seem to remember everyone making a fuss over how to enter a room without using the door. The diagram's back. Back then, we were all losing our cool, wondering how grandfather had disappeared from his room. The receipt Aunt Eva stuck in the door on a whim proved that the door had remained sealed. And since Aunt Natsuhi was the only person to enter or exit during that time, she was under suspicion. Aunt Eva proposed a theory about how Aunt Natsuhi might have thrown grandfather out the window. Just in case you missed the last episodes, here's another recap. And left by the door herself. But this door is much simpler. It was sealed from the inside by the door chain. The window had also been locked from the inside, and the bodies had been inside the room. This time it really had been, without exaggeration, a true closed room. That's right. If you include grandfather's disappearance, 3 cases have occurred, and all 3 times the door has been the point of interest. The first was the shutter. Do we really have to go over all of this again, for God's sake? There was a key in the servant room, and if we assume someone knew about that, this can't really be called a closed room. We've literally covered this like 5 separate times. The next was the door sealed by the receipt. However, Aunt Natsuhi entered that room, so if grandfather had left through the window or been thrown out, she would have been able to lock the window before escaping. Or, like my theory, grandfather could have hidden until the receipt was gone and left the room later. Blah 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 blah. Basically, this door can be defeated with a handful of desperate tricks. In that sense, you really can't call this one You really can't call this one a closed room either. Okay. And now we have the door sealed with the door chain. Finally, we have to give up. The window, the door, everything had been locked. It doesn't matter if you don't have a body. It was a perfect closed room. The first hadn't been a closed room because everyone could be suspected. Oh, can we just move on? The second hadn't been a closed room because Aunt Natsuhi could be suspected. But this time, no one can be suspected. That was a perfect closed room. Take a shot every time someone says perfect closed room, for the love of God. Because the door chain formed a seal that blocked everyone equally well. God, it's only been 10 minutes. It's already annoying me. In that case, did the culprit carry out the crime without entering the room? George, you're not making sense. With some method from outside the room. Good point. No, it's not. Even though the chain makes it impossible to open it wide enough for a person to fit through, you can open it a small crack. What, so she just tentacled her arm in there and brutalized them to death? Come on. Did the culprit knock on the door to make them peer out before attacking them? Wait, am I missing something? You're missing a lot of things. Yeah, you are. If Aunt Eva's body had been lying right next to the door, then it might have been possible. But she was on the bed at the back of the room. And Uncle Hideyoshi was even in the bathroom. Looking from the crack in the door, you couldn't even see them, and you couldn't reach them with your hands either. Tentacles. Damn it, it's all useless. I don't have a clue. Something was tugging softly at my sleeve. It was Maria. Drop some fat truth bombs on them, Maria. Yeah, look at that face. Ew. Satisfied? I love her. What do you mean, satisfied? Battler, since you didn't want to suspect any of your relatives, you made a wish, saying you wanted the culprit to be Beatrice, right? Well, Beatrice granted that wish. Just as you asked, she did something that was completely impossible for a human to make you believe in the witch. And now you're complaining? How selfish. Get wrecked. Ouch, did he just slap her? I tapped Maria, who was laughing unpleasantly, on the head with my fist. That's a polite way of putting it. I tapped someone on the head with my fist. Child abuse? Sure, thanks for granting that wish. That just now was to thank you, and also to teach you to stop laughing when it's inappropriate. Never. You will never stop me. More importantly, tell me. There was another mysterious scribble on the door to Aunt Eva and Uncle Hideyoshi's room. Was that another magic circle? Duh. Kihihihihi. That one had a really memorable and characteristic design, so I'd hoped you'd at least know what it was. They don't know anything. Ouch. I don't know, which is why I'm letting you take the credit. Quit whining and explain. Rude. You sure are violent, Battler. You tell him. I won't tell you if you're too mean, get it? Ouch. Stop hitting her. I'll say it. Stop hitting me. That's the first magic circle of the moon. Okay. What does it mean? What is this magic circle's effect? What does the Hebrew writing mean? The words are from the Old Testament, Psalms 107 verse 16. Sure, I know that. For he has broken gates of brass and cuts through bars of iron. This magic circle has two effects. First, it can open a door, regardless of which method has been used to lock it. Handy. That sure is convenient. So you're saying they're trying to make it look like they're a witch because this closed room has a door that can't be opened without relying on magic. Some of these sentences really could be pruned. And the other effect? When you're blocked by unopenable doors in all directions, it opens a door. By using it in a difficult situation, it gives you a solution you hadn't even thought of until then. Generally speaking, you receive the powers of observation and discernment, inspiration and intuition. Kihihihi. Beatrice is trying to provoke you, since there's no way lowly humans like Battler could figure out how this door was opened. She's a troll, I love it. Hee. Ouch. Stop hitting her. Okay, good work, so shut up. Oh my god, he's so rude. Sounds great. I'll accept this challenge from the witch. Maria-chan, things like witches and demons don't exist in this world. Oh god, here we go again. Someone killed father and mother. I don't know whether that was someone I know or not, but either way, it was definitely a human. Sure, George, sure. Yeah, but how? How did they reach those two through the crack in the door? I don't care. Can we just move it on? We don't need to discuss this for another hour. It couldn't have been more than 10 centimeters wide. At any rate, I can hardly stand this stench. Same. What in the world could it be? Thank you, Natsuhi. Kanon and Kumasawa, who had gone on ahead, realized the smell wasn't coming from the kitchen even before they arrived there. That was because they noticed an even thicker wave of stench rising up from the stairs leading to the basement, which they passed on their way to the kitchen. The boiler room. I wonder if there's something wrong with the boiler again. Those stairs led to the underground boiler room. Oh, is somebody going to be boiled in there? The mansion's boiler was old and in poor condition. Both of them had witnessed problems with the boiler on several occasions, but they had never smelled the boiler belching out a stench like this before. That's a sentence. Slam. What was that sound? The thing they heard from the basement was definitely the sound of a door closing. Kumasawa had phrased it as a question, but she already knew it couldn't be anything else. Kumasawa was so surprised at that sound that her knees gave way yet again and she cowered. Get that woman knee pads. After all, at that very moment, no one could have been in the boiler room. Ta-da! Just a few seconds ago, everyone had been crowded together around Eva in Hideyoshi's room. So who caused the sound of a door closing just now? Da-dan! Kanon-san! After taking a second to sort out the situation, Kanon ran down towards the basement. Rip. Since they'd heard the sound of a door closing just now and there was no sign of anyone coming up the stairs, the person who'd closed the door had to be inside the boiler room now. If the boiler room had been a dead end, Kanon wouldn't have rushed in so hastily. But Kanon was a servant, so he knew. There were two entrances to the boiler room, one that opened to the mansion and one that opened to the courtyard. If he didn't chase them now, they might slip away. Kumasawa reached the same conclusion long after Kanon did. Well, she's old, give her a break. But she couldn't let him go alone. If the thing in the boiler room was the culprit, an opponent who had easily killed 6 adults in the first murder, then no matter how Kanon confronted them, he wouldn't be a match. Of course, with this argument, even if Kumasawa joined him, it wouldn't change anything. At any rate, after a delay, Kumasawa decided that she mustn't let Kanon go alone, and she rushed down the stairs. At that time, Kanon was already in the boiler room. The boiler room's characteristic damp heat tormented him. It had always been an unpleasantly smelly and hot place. And on top of that, the room was full of that horrible stench, which made Kanon feel like he was going to be sick. There was no doubt that this room was the source. In that case, Kanon should have been searching for where the smell was coming from. However, Kanon kept gazing straight forward as he grabbed a hatchet from a tool shelf just off to the side of the door. He hadn't stretched out his hand because he'd wanted a hatchet. He'd wanted to grab a weapon, any weapon. Why? I wonder. Kanon gazed into the darkness where the naked light bulb couldn't pierce. Then he answered. In roulette, you bet on a number or the colors red or black, vying for a payoff. Kanon, now is not the time. However, low-risk bets like black and red only offer a similarly low payoff. The words coming from Kanon's mouth were swallowed up by the darkness. That darkness suddenly started to swirl, glittering. Is it finally? Butterflies foiled. Ooh, lots of butterflies. It was such a fantastical scene. Golden, sparkling butterflies that hid in the shadows all over the boiler room, flapped their wings, twinkling beautifully, and gathered in the darkness, disappearing. Cannon continued speaking, directing his words at the darkness as it swallowed the butterflies up. But as the butterflies gathered in the darkness, they, perhaps, probably, no, they would certainly laugh. That's an awkward sentence. But Cannon continued to speak without faltering in the slightest. However, if you bet on something with a lower probability, your payoff increases proportional to the risk. The master called succeeding despite an astronomical risk a miracle, and called the astronomical payoff gained as a result magic. I have no interest in what kind of magic you and the master were seeking when you spun that roulette. But you forgot something. You forgot that in roulette there's a pocket that's neither black nor red. Roulette has a special pocket called 0, which means that the house takes everything in certain variants of the game. That means that all of the coins bet on the table will be swept up, just as though everyone has forfeit. Okay. I set my heart on just one thing. I decided that if Shannon were to be killed and I was left alive, I'd sacrifice this life of mine and bring this roulette of yours to ruin. Ooh, he's vengeful. This isn't one of the master's rules, and it certainly isn't one of yours. I made this rule myself. Ooh, you tell her. Ooh, he's angry. Ooh, get it? I'm not furniture anymore. I'm the 0 on your roulette. Ooh, so badass, Cannon. You tell her. Cannon's face twisted with humiliation. How do you twist your face with humiliation? It was clear that his defiance against his own weaknesses was being ridiculed somehow. Cannon's brow creased even further, and a fierce expression that he'd never shown to anyone appeared on his face. The hand grasping the hatchet was shaking. His sweat became drops, which slid downward. It was clear that the emotion causing Cannon's hand to shake wasn't just anger. However, Cannon suppressed that emotion. I won't let your words lead me astray again. This is where the demon's roulette ends. Wait another 1,000 years in hell for your next summoner, Beatrice! When Cannon raised the hatchet and tried to dive into the darkness definitely sneered. It sneered at that courage as if it were vulgar, lazy, futile, and meaningless. Lots of big words. Ooh. Well then. Get wrecked. Cannon, his hatchet still held aloft, couldn't take another step after that. With a clang, the hatchet that he'd been grasping fell and rolled on the floor. Ooh, and following that, with a pair of thuds, Cannon's knees hit, left, then right. That hand, which looked like it was trying to catch the sky now that the hatchet had been dropped, gradually lowered, landing on his chest. Then the other hand did the same. Ooh. Oh, R.I.P. Rip. Right there was a handle with a demonic design engraved on it. As Cannon looked down at his chest, the same type of weapon that had stabbed into Eva and Hideyoshi's foreheads was... Cannon was curled up in anguish, fresh blood dribbling from the corner of his mouth. That had to be... Sorry, Cannon. The worst attempt at revenge ever. It was makeup too extreme for Cannon's white skin. Around this scene, the glittering gold butterflies danced through the darkness, mesmerizing. It was a beautiful, beautiful dance, a funeral march of tribute, ridicule, and contempt for a single boy's self-sacrifice. Such flowery language. Cannon had already been prepared for his own death. But although he could do nothing but accept the death he had received, he attempted one last measure of resistance. He grasped the handle of the weapon sticking into his chest with both hands, and gritting his teeth with an acute, unearthly pain, he pulled it out. Yeah, you sure showed her. For only a moment, a bright red spray gushed out. It made an unpleasant bloop sound. Bloop. Somebody actually translated something as bloop, and it's amazing. Bloop. It probably resembled the sound of Canon's soul as it was sucked into the swamp of the dead. What? Can we just talk not in massively weird, strange metaphors and similes and all of that stuff, please? Canon-san? Eek! Someone! Eek! Kumasawa screamed at the incomprehensible sight in front of her. Pretty sure it's pretty comprehensible. Canon was lying in a pool of blood. Kumasawa's heart was a complete mess. Haha, not like Canon's. Ay! I'm sorry. Ah, what a horrible fate. He wouldn't have been killed if I had been with him. Ah, what incredible luck. What? If I had been with him, I might have been killed too. Kumasawa-san, now is not the time. As she screamed, her expression was filled with complete confusion, and all of the muscles in her face were pulled up as though she was smiling while crying. She's gone nuts. But no one could have made fun of an expression like this. Ooh, my goodness, people are angry. What is it, Kumasawa? Answer me, Kumasawa! The first one to dash in was Natsuhi, holding the rifle. It just does not look like a rifle to me. Battler and Genji dashed in after her. Normally, they probably would have started discussing the origin of that violent stench filling the boiler room. But after they saw Canon, who was lying on the ground as if he were drowning in an ocean of his own blood, the stench wasn't important anymore. Canon, answer me. I'm pretty sure he can't. Genji, bring Dr. Nanjo here. Natsuhi realized that even though Canon was on the verge of death, he was still conscious, so she sent Genji to get the doctor. Natsuhi, holding the rifle aloft, faced the darkness in the center of the boiler room and shouted. Oh my goodness, who is hiding over there? Come out quietly. If you don't come out from there, I'll shoot without mercy, you tell him. We need light. Aunt Natsuhi, let's light them up. Oh my, okay. Battler, thinking quickly, took a large flashlight from the tool shed alongside the door and used its light to cut through the darkness Natsuhi was glaring into. For the love of God. Punctuation. Smaller sentences, please. But the light only shone on mechanical-looking piping and a door. The door had been left open a small crack, and it was obvious that someone had left through there in a hurry. Aunt Natsuhi, where does that door go? Genji, where does that door lead to? The courtyard. Like hell I'd let you get away, you damn bastard! Indeed. Battler let out a war cry as he slammed into the door. Cool air from outside suddenly rushed in. There were some thin, rough stairs leading up. Battler ran up them, shouting. Wait, Battler-kun! It's dangerous to be on your own right now. Take this! Natsuhi was also rushing up the stairs, chasing after Battler. They were in the courtyard. The courtyard of the mansion had been built strictly for lighting purposes, so it wasn't a very elegant place. What does that even mean? Built for lighting purposes? What? Because it was surrounded on all sides, the air was calm and completely undisturbed, even though they could hear the sound of strong winds. There was only the gentle, sorrowful rain. As he ran through the cold and scattered raindrops, dashing up the stairs into the courtyard, Battler looked in every direction. Of course, the odds of him finding a suspicious silhouette just standing around nonchalantly were pretty much zero. Battler spun, looking all around. He turned again and again. He kept spinning until he almost lost his sense of direction. He prayed that he would see the culprit somewhere in this scenery. But there was no chance. All he saw as he spun was more and more of the mansion's heartless walls and windows. Furthermore, there were 2 entrances into the mansion from the courtyard, and neither of them were locked. Because the courtyard couldn't be entered from outside the mansion, the doors had been built without locks. Brilliant. He didn't know which one they had left through. He had to give up. I mean, there's 2 of you. There's several of you. Just split up. It always works out perfectly when people split up. Battler pounded the wall with his fist, swearing. Natsuki has not put that gun down for like half an hour now. Battler-kun, you mustn't run ahead by yourself. Battler-kun? Battler pressed his forehead against the wall, which he scratched at with his fingernails as he cried. Oh, so dramatic. Damn it, damn it, damn it. Aunt Eva and Uncle Hideyoshi. And now Kanon-kun. You killed a full 6 people. Oh. And that wasn't enough. So you had to kill 3 more. Are you kidding me? Are you effing kidding me? Aunt Eva and Uncle Hideyoshi were always kind and fun. No, Eva was an asshole. Let's not sugarcoat that. I just met Kanon yesterday, but I'm sure I'd have gotten along fine with him. Why did you kill them? Why? You know when people die, they don't come back to life again, right? That is the strangest thing to say. Like, I assume that everybody does come back again at some point, so it's like foreshadowing, but that's just the stupidest thing for a character to say right now. They aren't gonna quickly sprout up again like bamboo shoots. The metaphors, the similes. Why'd you kill them? Why? Ah! That's the biggest scream you get from me. Alright, we're gonna end this episode here. We're gonna find out what poor baby Battler is being dramatic about in the next one. See ya.